Isabella Reed was fired for hiding a patient who officially did not exist. Hours later, Mafia boss Dante Moretti found her surrounded by assassins and carried her into his armored car. She thought he had saved her. Then he locked the doors, placed a family photograph on her lap, and pointed to the woman Isabella had been protecting. "That is my sister," he said. "She was buried 18 years ago." Before Isabella could answer, the supposedly dead woman called Dante's private phone and told him to kill the nurse before midnight. 6 hours earlier, Isabella had been standing beside room 407 at St. Gabriel Hospital, trying to understand why a dying woman had no medical history, no insurance record, and no name in the hospital system. The patient had been admitted shortly before dawn by 2 men wearing expensive black coats. They claimed they had found her unconscious near a subway entrance, but neither man stayed long enough to answer questions. By the time Isabella began her evening shift, the admitting forms had disappeared. The security footage from the emergency entrance had been erased, and the patient's identification bracelet displayed only 4 words: Female. Unknown. Age 40. Isabella had worked at St. Gabriel for 7 years. She knew mistakes happened. Records were delayed. Names were misspelled. Computers failed. But patients did not vanish from a hospital database while they were still breathing in a hospital bed. The woman in room 407 looked closer to 50 than 40. Her dark hair was threaded with silver. Her face was pale beneath a fading bruise, and an old surgical scar crossed the left side of her chest. She had arrived with severe dehydration, internal bleeding, and traces of a sedative Isabella could not identify. Someone had kept her unconscious for a long time. Someone had also removed the tips of 2 fingers, making fingerprint identification almost impossible. Dr. Mercer, the hospital's chief administrator, had ordered the staff not to contact the police. He called the patient a private charity case and warned everyone that questions would create unnecessary liability. Most nurses obeyed. Isabella did not. She had learned to distrust powerful men who used calm voices while asking others to ignore suffering. Her father had spoken that way before disappearing when she was 16. Her former fiancé had spoken that way while emptying their joint savings account. Dr. Mercer used the same measured tone when he instructed Isabella to increase the patient's sedative dosage, even though her blood pressure was dangerously low. "She needs rest," Mercer said. "She needs a surgeon," Isabella replied. "Her abdominal scan shows active bleeding. The scan has been reviewed." "By whom?" Mercer's smile disappeared. "Your job is to follow the treatment plan." Isabella looked through the glass panel in the door. The woman's eyes were open. She was staring directly at her. "My job is to keep her alive." Mercer stepped closer until Isabella could smell mint and expensive cologne on his breath. "Your job is whatever this hospital says it is." He walked away before she could answer. 10 minutes later, the treatment order in the system changed. The new instructions authorized a dose strong enough to suppress the patient's breathing. Isabella printed the order before it could disappear. Then she entered room 407, closed the blinds, and disconnected the sedative line. The woman's hand shot out with surprising strength and seized Isabella's wrist. "They found me," she whispered. Her voice was raw, as if she had not spoken in years. "Who found you?" Isabella asked. The patient's frightened gaze moved toward the camera above the door. "Not here." Isabella unplugged the monitor cable leading to the central nurse's station. An alarm would sound within minutes. But she needed the woman conscious. "Tell me your name." The patient studied Isabella's face. Her expression shifted from fear to recognition. You have her eyes. Whose eyes? Your mother's. Isabella froze. Her mother had died when she was 3. She had no photographs of her, except one damaged picture kept in a wooden box beneath her bed. You knew my mother. The woman tried to sit up, then gasped and pressed a hand against her abdomen. Blood seeped through the bandage beneath her hospital gown. Isabella lowered the bed and checked the wound. Don't move. You need surgery. No surgery here. Their doctors will finish what they started. Who are they? The patient looked again toward the camera. The Morettis, even in New York, where criminal legends became neighborhood folklore. The name carried weight. The Moretti family controlled construction contracts, private security companies, nightclubs, shipping routes, and enough politicians to make investigations disappear. Newspapers called them businessmen. Police reports called them an organized crime network. People in Isabella's neighborhood called them only when they were certain no one else could help. At the center of the empire stood Dante Moretti, a man whose photograph rarely appeared twice in the same publication. Some stories described him as ruthless. Others claimed he had rebuilt 3 neighborhoods after a hurricane and never allowed drugs near schools under his protection. Isabella knew only that men lowered their voices when they spoke his name. Why would the Morettis want you dead? She asked. The patient's grip tightened. Because I am one of them. Footsteps sounded in the hallway. Several pairs. Controlled and deliberate. Isabella moved toward the door. But the woman pulled her back. Listen to me. My name is Elena Moretti. Dante is my younger brother. Isabella stared at her. Everyone in New York knew the story of Elena Moretti, 18 years earlier. The 27-year-old daughter of Vittorio Moretti had died when her car exploded on a private road outside the family estate. Her death had started a war that left 11 men dead and placed her 19-year-old brother at the head of the family. Elena Moretti is dead, Isabella said. That was the point. The handle moved. Isabella reacted before she could think. She rolled the patient's bed away from the center of the room, pulled open the narrow service door behind the supply cabinet, and guided Elena into a linen cart used for transporting dirty sheets. Elena nearly collapsed, but Isabella caught her. The woman weighed less than expected. Her body weakened by years of confinement. Stay quiet, Isabella whispered. No matter what you hear. She covered Elena with folded blankets and pushed the cart into the service corridor just as the main door opened behind her. Doctor. Mercer entered with 2 men Isabella had never seen before. Neither wore hospital identification. One had a scar beneath his right ear. The other carried a metal case large enough to hold surgical instruments. Where is the patient? Mercer asked. Isabella kept one hand on the linen cart. Radiology called for another scan. Radiology did not call. Then your system must have another problem. The scarred man walked to the empty bed and touched the disconnected sedative line. His eyes shifted toward Isabella. How long ago? I don't know what you mean. He moved faster than she expected, crossing the room and gripping the front of her uniform. How long ago did she leave? Isabella drove her knee into his thigh. His grip loosened, but only for a second. The other man grabbed her from behind. She screamed, hoping someone in the hallway would hear. But Mercer closed the door. You should have followed instructions, he said. Isabella kicked backward and caught the second man's shin. She twisted free, seized the emergency defibrillator from the wall, and slammed the metal edge into the scarred man's shoulder. He stumbled into the IV pole before anyone recovered. Isabella shoved the linen cart through the service door and ran. The narrow corridor connected the patient rooms to laundry elevators and storage areas. Elena struggled to breathe beneath the blankets. Isabella pushed faster, her shoes slipping against the polished floor. An alarm began to pulse behind them. Mercer had activated the hospital lockdown. Elevator doors would seal. Stairwells would require security codes. Every exit camera would begin searching for Isabella's face. She turned into the laundry room, pulled Elena from the cart, and helped her into a spare orderly's uniform. "Can you walk?" Isabella asked. "For a minute." "I need more than a minute." Elena gripped the side of the cart. "The old morgue tunnel." "What this hospital used to connect to St. Anne's convent. There is a tunnel below the morgue." Isabella had heard rumors about sealed passageways beneath St. Gabriel, but she had never seen them. "How do you know that?" "Because my father paid for it." Voices echoed from the corridor. Isabella wrapped an arm around Elena's waist and led her toward the service elevator. The doors opened before she touched the button. A hospital security guard stood inside. For one terrible second, neither moved. Then the guard looked past Isabella at Elena's blood-stained uniform. "Mercer says you attacked a patient," he said. Mercer ordered enough sedative to kill her. The guard's jaw tightened. Isabella recognized him as Luis, a night supervisor whose wife had been treated in oncology 2 years earlier. Isabella had spent 3 nights finding an affordable medication program for her. "Camera blind spot lasts 40 seconds. Luis said quietly. "Take the elevator to basement 2. Turn left at pathology. The door behind freezer 6 opens with code 9301. Isabella stared at him. "Why are you helping us?" "Because Dr. Mercer fired the last nurse who asked about room 407. She disappeared on her way home." He stepped aside. "Go." The elevator descended. Elena leaned against the wall, shaking. "You should have left me," she whispered. "I don't abandon patient. That will get you killed." "People keep telling me that." The doors opened into a dim basement corridor. Isabella followed Luis's directions past pathology and into the old morgue. Most of the room had been converted into storage, but 6 steel freezers remained along the far wall. The door behind freezer 6 was concealed beneath peeling paint. The code worked. Beyond it, stone steps descended into darkness. Isabella used her phone flashlight and guided Elena down. The air smelled of damp concrete and rust. Old pipes trembled overhead. After 20 yards, the passage divided. One route led toward the abandoned convent. The other curved beneath the parking structure. Elena pointed right. "There is a delivery exit near the river." "You have been here before, when I was a child." The sound of metal scraping came from behind them. Someone had opened the hidden door. Isabella switched off her phone light and pulled Elena into a narrow recess. Footsteps descended the stairs. 2 men entered the passage, one carrying a flashlight. "Mercer wants the nurse alive," a voice said. "Rossi wants them both dead." "Since when do we work for Rossi?" "Since he started paying better than Mercer." The beam swept across the wall inches from Isabella's face. Elena covered her mouth to silence a cough. Isabella's hand found a broken length of pipe on the floor. When the first man passed, she stepped behind him and struck the back of his knee. He collapsed. She swung again and hit his wrist, sending the flashlight spinning into the darkness. The second man lunged toward her. Elena seized the fallen flashlight and smashed it against his temple. Both attackers fell against the stone wall. Isabella grabbed one of their phones and a keycard. "You said you were weak," she whispered. Elena gave a tired smile. I said I was dying. There is a difference. They reached the delivery exit 3 minutes later. Cold rain struck Isabella's face as she pushed into the alley behind the hospital. She used the stolen phone to call a rideshare, then remembered the system would track their location. She smashed the device beneath her shoe and led Elena toward a row of late-night food trucks near the river. They stole 2 plastic raincoats from an unattended supply crate and boarded a city bus through the rear door. Isabella paid in cash. Neither spoke until the hospital had disappeared behind them. "Where can I take you?" Isabella asked. "Not the police." "I assumed that." "Not your home." "Why?" "Because they already know who you are." Isabella stared at her. "How, doctor?" "Mercer was not treating me. He was waiting for me to wake up and identify you." "Identify me as what?" Elena looked toward the rain streaking the bus window. "Proof that a dead woman told the truth." Isabella felt a cold pressure settle beneath her ribs. "What dead woman?" Elena turned to her. "Your mother." Before Isabella could demand an explanation, Elena's eyes rolled back. She collapsed against the seat. Blood spread beneath the stolen raincoat. Isabella pulled the emergency cord and forced the driver to stop near a closed pharmacy. She could not return to St. Gabriel. She could not risk another hospital connected to Mercer, so she took Elena to the only safe place she could think of, a free clinic in Brooklyn where Isabella volunteered twice a month. The clinic's director, Dr. Naomi Carter, let them in through the rear entrance. Naomi was 60, sharp-eyed, and unimpressed by threats from anyone. She examined Elena without asking unnecessary questions. "The bleeding is from an old incision that reopened," Naomi said. "I can stabilize her, but she needs surgery within 12 hours. Can you do it here?" Isabella asked. "Not safely." Elena opened her eyes. "There is a surgeon in Queens, Adrian Bell. He owes the Moretti family his life." Naomi glanced at Isabella. "Did she say Moretti?" Isabella nodded. Naomi removed her gloves. "Then the police are not our biggest problem." Elena reached inside the pocket of the orderly's uniform and removed a small silver key. It was attached to a thin chain stained with dried blood. She pressed it into Isabella's palm. "Grand Central Station. Lower-level lockers. Number 2, 14. What is inside?" "The reason Dante became the head of our family. You said he became boss because you died. That is what he believes." Elena struggled for breath. "My father staged my death because I discovered what he had done. Dante was never supposed to inherit anything. He was supposed to die with me." A vehicle stopped outside the clinic. Heavy doors opened. Naomi switched off the examination light and moved toward the blinds. 3 black SUVs blocked the street. Men in dark suits stepped onto the sidewalk. Isabella's pulse hammered. How did they find us? Elena looked at the clinic's ceiling camera. They did not find us. They found you. The front door shook beneath a hard knock. St. Gabriel, security. A man called. "We are searching for a kidnapped patient," Naomi whispered. "Back stairwell." "No." Isabella helped Elena off the table. They had taken only 2 steps when the clinic's rear door burst open. A masked man entered with a suppressed pistol. Naomi threw a metal tray. The gun fired. The bullet struck a cabinet inches from her head. Isabella shoved Elena behind the examination table and charged the attacker before he could fire again. She caught his wrist with both hands, twisting until the weapon pointed toward the ceiling. He drove an elbow into her shoulder. Pain exploded down her arm. She held on. The gun fired again, shattering a light fixture. Naomi struck him with an oxygen cylinder. He collapsed. That is the second time tonight someone has tried to kill me. Isabella gasped. Third, Elena said weakly. The sedative order counted. The front windows shattered. More men entered. Naomi grabbed Isabella's arm. Take the basement stairs. There is a loading door behind the furnace. Isabella did not move. Come with us. Someone has to make them believe you are still upstairs. Naomi, you saved my husband during his stroke because no one else noticed the symptoms. Let me repay one favor. She pushed a ring of keys into Isabella's hand. Go. Isabella and Elena reached the basement as boots thundered through the clinic above them. The loading door opened into a fenced service yard. Isabella unlocked Naomi's old sedan, eased Elena into the passenger seat, and drove through the rear gate. A black SUV followed them within seconds. Isabella accelerated through narrow streets, slick with rain. She had never driven like this before. Red lights became suggestions. Curbs became escape routes. The SUV remained behind them. Elena opened the glove compartment and found nothing but insurance papers and a tire gauge. Do you know how to lose them? Isabella asked. My brother taught me. Your brother was 19 when you supposedly died. Dante learned to drive at 12. Elena directed her toward an industrial district near the waterfront. They cut through a warehouse lot, crossed beneath an elevated train, and entered a maze of shipping containers. The SUV followed. Turn left. Elena said, There is no road. Exactly. Isabella steered between two containers with only inches of clearance. Naomi's smaller sedan passed through. The SUV struck a steel barrier and stopped. Isabella did not slow down until they reached the Brooklyn Bridge. Elena's breathing had become shallow. Stay awake, Isabella ordered. Tell me about my mother. Her name was Celeste Vale. Isabella tightened her hands around the steering wheel. Her birth certificate listed her mother as Claire Reed. That is not possible. Claire Reed was a name we gave her when she ran. Ran? From whom, my father? Elena's voice weakened. Celeste worked in the Moretti household. She discovered financial ledgers proving Vittorio was stealing from his own family and funding a private organization called the Covenant. She also discovered something worse. What he was replacing, family members who opposed him. Isabella glanced at her. Replacing them, forged deaths, altered records. Imposters trained to take over businesses and accounts. People everyone believed were alive had been dead for years. People everyone believed were dead were being kept where no one could find them. Isabella thought of the missing records. Elena's damaged fingerprints. The unidentified sedative in her blood. You were one of them. For 18 years. Elena's eyes closed. Celeste tried to expose him. She became pregnant before she could escape. Pregnant with me. Elena nodded. Your father was not the man named on your records. Then, who was he? A motorcycle appeared beside the sedan. The rider wore a black helmet and raised a pistol. Isabella slammed the brakes. The motorcycle shot ahead. She turned sharply onto a side street as the rider fired. The rear window exploded. Elena ducked. Isabella pushed the accelerator down and aimed toward Manhattan. She no longer knew where they were going. Every clinic was dangerous. Every friend could become a target. Her apartment was the last place Elena wanted her to go, which meant it might be the only place their pursuers would assume she avoided. Isabella parked 2 blocks away and led Elena through the rear entrance of her building. The hallway was dark. Her elderly neighbor's television played loudly behind one door. Somewhere upstairs. A baby cried. Normal sounds. Safe sounds. Isabella unlocked her apartment and immediately noticed the smell. Cedar and cigarette smoke. Someone had been inside. Drawers stood open. Cushions had been cut apart. Her mother's wooden box lay shattered on the bedroom floor. The only photograph Isabella owned was gone. Elena sank onto the couch. They were looking for the key. They did not find it. Isabella closed the blinds. We cannot stay. I cannot move again. Elena removed the raincoat. Blood had soaked through the bandage. Isabella gathered supplies from her bathroom and began cleaning the wound. Her hands remained steady even as fear twisted inside her. Nursing was the only part of her life that never betrayed her. Bodies told the truth. A pulse could not be bribed. Blood pressure did not care about family power. Pain did not vanish because a wealthy man ordered it to. You need to tell me everything, Isabella said, before you lose consciousness. Elena looked at her with exhausted regret. Your mother did not die when you were 3. Isabella stopped moving. I went to her funeral. You went to a closed casket. My aunt identified the body. Your aunt was paid. Isabella's throat tightened. Where is my mother? I do not know. Alive. She was alive 10 years ago. Rage rose so quickly, Isabella nearly dropped the gauze. You knew this. And you waited until now. I was imprisoned beneath a private medical facility. I did not have access to a telephone. But you knew who I was. I knew your name. Celeste made me promise that if I ever escaped, I would find you before the Covenant did. Isabella stepped away from the couch. The walls of her small apartment seemed to tilt. Everything she believed about her childhood had been built around a grave that might contain a stranger. Why do they want me? Elena answered in a whisper. Because Celeste placed the evidence in your blood. Isabella stared at her. What does that mean? She had access to an experimental biological archive. The Covenant stored encrypted financial codes inside synthetic DNA markers. Your mother copied the master ledger and inserted the sequence into an embryo. Isabella's hand moved unconsciously to her abdomen. Me. You are the only living key to every secret account. False identity and hidden facility they created. That sounds impossible. It was impossible 18 years ago. That is why no one searched for it in a child. Headlights swept across the ceiling. A black car stopped outside. Then another. Isabella moved toward the window and looked through a narrow gap in the blinds. 4 men stepped onto the sidewalk. None wore masks. They did not need to. The neighborhood was too frightened to interfere. We have to leave, Isabella said. Elena shook her head. I will slow you down. I am not leaving you. Then neither of us survives. The building's front door crashed open below. Isabella searched the apartment for a weapon. She found a kitchen knife, a heavy lamp, and the pistol taken from the clinic attacker. She had never fired a gun. Elena checked the magazine. 6 rounds. Can you use it? Not with this much blood loss. Footsteps entered the stairwell. Isabella pulled Elena toward the fire escape. The metal ladder outside had rusted in place. She kicked it once, twice, but it would not drop. The apartment door shook under the first impact. Wood splintered near the lock. Isabella aimed the pistol with both hands. Stand behind me. Elena almost laughed. You are a nurse, and you are my patient. The door burst inward. A man entered with a handgun raised. Before Isabella could fire, 3 shots sounded from the hallway. The attacker collapsed. Another figure stepped over him. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a black suit beneath a rain-darkened coat. Dante Moretti entered Isabella's apartment as if the entire building belonged to him. 2 armed men followed. Dante's eyes moved first to Elena. then to the silver key in Isabella's hand. His expression did not change, but something colder than anger settled across his face. "Isabella Reed," he said, "you have created a very expensive problem." She kept the gun aimed at him. "Your sister needs surgery. My sister is dead. Then your dead sister is bleeding on my couch." Dante looked directly at Elena. For one suspended moment, he seemed unable to breathe. Elena's lips parted. "Hello, little brother." Dante's hand tightened around his weapon. The emotion vanished behind a mask of control. "Get them downstairs," he ordered. Isabella refused to move. "Where are you taking us?" "Somewhere the men outside cannot reach you." "Your men are outside. The men outside belong to Carlo Rossi." "And why should I trust you?" Dante stepped closer until the barrel of Isabella's pistol nearly touched his chest. "Because if I wanted you dead, Nurse Reed, you would not still be holding that gun." A shot shattered the window behind them. Dante moved instantly. He pulled Isabella against him, turned his body between her and the glass, and fired toward the rooftop across the street. His men returned fire. Elena collapsed. Isabella dropped beside her. "She is losing too much blood." Dante lifted Elena into his arms. His face remained hard, but his voice changed when he said her name. "Elena." She did not respond. They left through the rear stairwell and entered an armored sedan waiting in the alley. Dante placed Elena on the long back seat while Isabella applied pressure to the wound. The doors locked automatically. The car accelerated before Dante sat down. "There is a surgeon at my estate," he said. "She needs an operating room now. She will have one in 11 minutes. She may not have 11 minutes. Dante removed his coat and folded it beneath Elena's head. His gaze remained fixed on the woman he had buried 18 years earlier. "Tell me how you found her." "I did not find her. She appeared in my hospital without a name. And your people tried to kill her." "They were not my people. Everyone says that when the shooting starts." Dante looked at Isabella for the first time. His eyes were dark, calm, and impossible to read. "You were fired tonight for refusing to murder a patient." "Doctor, Mercer claims you kidnapped her." "Doctor, Mercer signed the lethal order." "Do you have proof?" Isabella reached into her uniform pocket and produced the folded printout. Dante took it. His expression sharpened when he saw the authorization code. "This code belongs to my family's medical director." "Then your family has a problem." "My family has several." Elena's hand moved weakly. "The key," she whispered. Isabella closed her fingers around the silver chain. Dante noticed. "What does it open?" "She has not told me." "She told you enough to make Rossi send 8 men after you. Maybe they were trying to reach her. They searched your apartment before she arrived." Isabella went still. Dante opened a hidden compartment beside the seat and removed a family photograph. It showed a younger Vittorio Moretti standing outside a stone mansion with 3 children. A teenage Dante stood on the left. Elena stood beside him, smiling. On the right was another young man Isabella did not recognize. Dante placed the picture on her lap and pointed to Elena. "That is my sister. She was buried 18 years ago." Isabella looked from the photograph to the unconscious woman beside her. "You buried an empty casket. I saw a body. Then it was not hers." Dante's private phone began to ring. The screen displayed no number. Only a single red symbol shaped like a crown split down the middle. For the first time, Isabella saw unease in his eyes. "Who is it?" she asked. Dante answered without speaking. A woman's voice came through the speaker. Weak, distorted. but unmistakably similar to Elena's. Dante, listen carefully. The woman beside you is not your sister. His gaze moved toward Elena. The voice continued. Elena died 18 years ago. The nurse has been sent to unlock what our father buried. Kill Isabella Reed before midnight, or every member of our family will be dead by sunrise. The call ended. Silence filled the armored car. Isabella looked at the digital clock on the dashboard. It was 1114 p.m. Dante had 46 minutes to decide whether she was the key to saving his family or the weapon created to destroy it. "Are you going to kill me?" Isabella asked. Dante did not answer immediately. The armored car passed through iron gates and climbed a winding road toward a stone estate overlooking the river. Guards opened a second barrier. Floodlights swept across the vehicle. "No," Dante said at last. "But until I know who made that call, you will not leave my sight. That is not protection. That is imprisonment. Tonight, the difference may keep you alive." The car stopped beneath a covered entrance. A medical team waited with a stretcher. At their center stood Dr. Adrian Bell, a silver-haired surgeon with tired eyes and a scar running from his jaw to his collar. Isabella followed as Elena was rushed into a private operating room built beneath the east wing. Dante blocked her path. "Bell will handle it. I know her condition. I know what drugs were used. I am going in. You were dismissed from your hospital because I refused to kill her." Bell looked between them. "She comes with me." Dante stepped aside. Isabella changed into surgical clothing and assisted while Bell repaired the reopened incision and removed a small transmitter embedded beneath Elena's ribs. The device was no larger than a grain of rice. It had been placed near a major artery, so careless removal would cause fatal bleeding. "This is how they tracked her," Isabella said. Bell examined the transmitter. Not only tracked, it released measured doses of sedative into surrounding tissue. She escaped because the reservoir finally failed. How long was it inside her years? Outside the operating room. Dante watched through the glass. He did not move for nearly 2 hours. Shortly before midnight, the estate lights flickered. Backup generators activated. A warning sounded through the underground corridor. One of Dante's guards entered the observation room. "Sir, we lost contact with the north gate." Dante drew his pistol. "Lock down the medical wing." The clock reached 1158. Isabella was closing Elena's final incision when every screen in the operating room turned black. Bell swore beneath his breath. Emergency lights came on, filling the room with a dull red glow. "Her pressure is falling," Isabella said. The pump stopped. Bell began ventilating Elena manually while Isabella restarted the portable monitor. A shadow moved behind the frosted glass door. Isabella expected Dante. Instead, Dr. Mercer entered wearing a stolen medical coat and holding a gun. "Step away from her," he said. Bell raised his hands. Isabella remained beside the operating table. "You followed the transmitter. It was never meant to be removed." Mercer's gun shifted toward Elena. "You should have administered the medication when I ordered you. You should not have signed your name." Isabella glanced at the stainless steel tray beside her. A syringe filled with anesthetic lay inches from her hand. Mercer noticed the movement. "Do not try it." The clock changed to 1159, somewhere beyond the room. Gunfire echoed through the estate. Mercer stepped closer. "Give me the key." "Isabella, I do not have it. We searched your apartment. We searched the clinic. Elena gave it to you." Then search me. Mercer's eyes dropped for a fraction of a second. Isabella seized the syringe and drove it into his forearm. He fired as he stumbled backward. The bullet struck the surgical light above the table. Bell pulled Elena's stretcher toward the wall. Mercer struck Isabella across the face and tore the syringe free. But the medication was already entering his bloodstream. He raised the gun again. The operating room door opened behind him. Dante fired once. Mercer collapsed before he could turn. Dante crossed the room, checked Isabella for injuries, then looked at the clock. Midnight. Nothing happened. Your family is still alive, Isabella said. A violent explosion shook the estate. Dust fell from the ceiling. The emergency system announced a fire in the West Archive. Dante's expression hardened. The threat was not about killing us directly. It was about destroying evidence. He ordered his men to secure the archive. But the fire had been started from inside a sealed room. By the time it was contained, decades of ledgers, photographs, and private agreements had been reduced to blackened paper. Carlo Rossi had not attacked the estate to rescue Mercer. He had attacked to erase the Moretti family's past. Elena survived the operation. A DNA test, completed at dawn, confirmed that she and Dante shared the same mother and father. There was no longer any question that the woman in the bed was his sister. Dante sat beside her for several minutes without speaking. Isabella watched from the doorway. The feared Mafia boss looked younger in that moment, stripped of the cold certainty that normally surrounded him. He touched Elena's hand, as though afraid she would disappear again. "I searched for you," he said quietly. "For years." Elena opened her eyes. "You searched where Father told you to search. I saw your body. You saw a woman altered to resemble me. Why did he do it? Because I found the covenant." Dante looked toward Isabella. "Tell me everything." Elena explained that Vittorio Moretti had created the covenant with Carlo Rossi and several corrupt physicians 25 years earlier. At first, it had been a way to hide endangered witnesses and relocate loyal family members. Then Vittorio discovered how much money could be stolen when a person legally died while remaining physically alive. Bank accounts, estates, company shares, and insurance policies passed to chosen successors. Those who resisted were imprisoned in private medical facilities and kept sedated. Doubles appeared at meetings long enough to approve transfers. Doctors falsified records. Judges sealed files. Hospital administrators removed names from databases. "Our father did not build an empire," Elena said. "He built a cemetery filled with living people." Dante's jaw tightened, and Rossi continued after Father died. Rossi arranged Father's death. Elena looked at the family photograph. The man beside us was our older brother, Luca. Father claimed Luca was killed in a boating accident. He was not. Luca discovered the covenant before I did. Rossi replaced him with a trained double for 6 months, emptied his accounts, and then eliminated both of them. Dante stood abruptly. I trusted Rossi for 18 years. That was why Father chose him. Isabella thought of the voice on the telephone. "The woman who called," said Elena, "was not your sister." "Who was she?" Elena looked at Isabella with sadness. "Your mother." Isabella felt as if the air had left the room. "You said you did not know where she was." "I did not. But I recognized her voice. She ordered Dante to kill me." She was forced to say those words. Elena closed her eyes briefly. "Celeste used a code we created years ago. Whenever one of us was speaking under threat, we said the opposite of the truth. The woman beside you is not your sister meant I was. Kill Isabella before midnight meant protect her until midnight." Every member of the family will be dead by sunrise meant the Covenant planned to erase the family archive before morning. Dante retrieved the recording from his phone. Isabella listened again. Beneath the distortion, she heard 3 faint taps before the call ended. Her mother had always tapped 3 times on Isabella's bedroom door when she was a child. Or at least, that was how Isabella remembered her. She knew I was listening. Isabella whispered. She wanted me to recognize her. Elena nodded. The Covenant still has her. Dante ordered every Moretti property searched. But Isabella knew the answer would not be found in family records. Celeste had spent years hiding information from men who controlled records. She would leave a clue where only Isabella could reach it. The silver key opened locker 214 at Grand Central Station. Dante wanted to send men, but Isabella refused. Rossi knows your men. He may not know me well enough yet. He sent assassins to your apartment. Then he knows my address. Not how I think. Dante went with her wearing a dark coat and no visible weapon. Though Isabella had no doubt, he carried several. They entered the station during the morning rush. People moved around them in waves, unaware that half a criminal empire was hunting the woman in the nurse's coat. Locker 214 contained a small metal case, an old cassette recorder, and a sealed envelope bearing Isabella's name. Inside the envelope was a photograph of Celeste holding Isabella as an infant. Beside them stood a young man with glasses and a gentle smile. On the back, Celeste had written, "Daniel Reed, your father, the bravest man I knew." Isabella's knees weakened. The man who raised her had always claimed Daniel was a distant cousin who died before she was born. In truth, Daniel had been a federal financial investigator who helped Celeste copy the Covenant's accounts. Vittorio killed him before he could deliver the evidence. The cassette contained Celeste's voice. "Isabella, if you are hearing this, then Elena found you, or the Covenant did. I am sorry I let you believe I was dead. I thought disappearing would keep you safe." Daniel and I discovered that the Covenant stored access codes in a genetic archive designed by Dr. Rees. Adrian Bell. I copied the master index into a harmless synthetic sequence and asked Bell to place it inside the embryo that became you. No illness was created. No part of your body was changed. You simply carry a key that cannot be stolen without your consent. The metal case contains a reader. A drop of your blood will unlock a list of every person the Covenant erased. Do not give it to the Moretti family unless Dante proves he is willing to destroy the empire his father built. Dante listened without interrupting. Isabella held the metal case between them. She did not trust you. She had no reason to. Do you expect me to trust you? No. His answer surprised her. I expect you to watch what I do next. A man in a grey coat appeared at the far end of the locker corridor. Dante recognized him first. He pulled Isabella behind a concrete pillar as the man raised a weapon. The first shot struck the locker door. Dante returned fire. Commuters screamed and scattered. 2 more attackers entered from the opposite end. Dante pushed the metal case into Isabella's arms. Service exit. 30 yards behind you. I am not leaving you. That habit of yours is becoming dangerous. You said I would not leave your sight. Despite the gunfire. A brief smile touched his face. Then stay close. They moved together through the corridor. Dante fired with controlled precision while Isabella used a maintenance cart as cover. One attacker rushed from behind a row of lockers. Isabella slammed the cart into him, pinning him against the wall. Dante disarmed the second. The man in the grey coat escaped into the station. But not before Isabella saw a hospital identification card beneath his jacket. St. Gabriel was only one part of a much larger network. Back at the estate, Bell opened the metal case. The device inside was an early biometric reader connected to an encrypted drive. Isabella placed one drop of blood on the glass plate. The screen displayed a long sequence. Then hundreds of names appeared. Some were famous business owners believed to have died years earlier. Others were judges, doctors, accountants, and members of several criminal families. Beside each name was a status deceased, replaced, confined, transferred, or terminated. Elena's record read confined for 18 years. Celeste Vale's record read active subject. Location: Blackwood. Dante searched the Moretti entries. Vittorio was listed as terminated by Carlo Rossi 3 months after Elena's staged death. Luca was listed as terminated. Dante's own name contained a future date. What does that mean? Isabella asked. Bell enlarged the record. A succession order had been created 2 years earlier, on Dante's 38th birthday. He was scheduled to die in an apparent boating accident. Carlo Rossi would become temporary head of the family, while a man named Adrian Moretti assumed control. There is no Adrian Moretti, Dante said. Elena looked at the family photograph. There will be after they train him. The secret did not merely threaten the Moretti family. It proved the family Dante ruled had already been hollowed out from within. Several captains, lawyers, and financial managers were covenant replacements. Any attempt to expose the truth could trigger civil war. If this list becomes public, Dante said, every rival family will attack. The government will seize every legitimate business. Thousands of employees will lose their jobs. Men who had nothing to do with the covenant will be killed. Isabella faced him, and if it stays hidden, the covenant keeps replacing people. I know. Do you? Her anger broke through, because your first instinct is still to protect the empire. Dante moved closer, but his voice remained quiet. My first instinct is to protect everyone standing beneath it when it falls. Isabella wanted to accuse him of making excuses, but she saw the truth in his expression. He was not afraid of losing money or power. He was calculating how many innocent people would be crushed by the collapse. Then control the fall. She said, release the names of the victims. Freeze the covenant accounts. Protect the employees. Give the legitimate businesses to people who did not participate. My captains will call it betrayal. Is it? Dante looked toward Elena, then at the list containing his father's crimes. No, before they could act. The estate's security system reported that Carlo Rossi had arrived at the front gate with 20 men. He requested a private meeting. Dante allowed him inside, but ordered the guards to disarm everyone. Rossi entered the main hall as if attending a funeral. He was in his 60s. Elegant, silver-haired, and calm. Isabella recognized his voice from the men in the hospital tunnel. Dante, Rossi said, I heard the estate was attacked by men working for you. Rossi looked offended. Mercer acted without authorization. Mercer is dead. Then he cannot defend himself. Dante displayed the biometric reader on a table between them. For the first time, Rossi's composure cracked. Where did you get that? Locker 214. Rossi glanced at Isabella. Celeste's daughter. You have her eyes. Dante stepped between them. You will not look at her again. Rossi's mouth curved. You are risking everything for a nurse you met last night. I am correcting a mistake my family made 25 years ago. Your family survived because of those mistakes. My family was murdered by them. Rossi's gaze shifted toward Elena as she entered the hall supported by Bell. Shock flickered across his face. Impossible. You said that when I escaped the first facility, Elena replied. Then you moved me 3 times. Dante placed a list of names before Rossi. Where is Celeste? Blackwood is not a place. It is a protocol. The reader says location, Blackwood. Then the reader is outdated. Isabella watched Rossi's right hand. He repeatedly touched the ring on his smallest finger. It contained a tiny red light. He is transmitting, she warned. Dante seized Rossi's hand, tore off the ring, and crushed it beneath his shoe. An explosion sounded from the medical wing. Smoke poured into the corridor. Rossi's men outside the gates began firing. The meeting had been a distraction. During the confusion, Rossi pulled a narrow blade from his sleeve and lunged toward Elena. Isabella stepped between them. Dante caught Rossi's wrist before the blade reached her. The 2 men struggled. Rossi was older, but surprisingly strong. He struck Dante's injured shoulder and broke free. Isabella grabbed the heavy metal case and swung it into Rossi's arm. The blade fell. Dante's guards surrounded him. You could kill me, Rossi said, breathing hard. But then you will never find Celeste. You are going to take us to her. And what prevents you from killing me afterward? Dante looked at Isabella. Nothing. Rossi laughed softly. Now you sound like your father. Dante's expression became colder. My father murdered his children. Do not confuse me with him. Underguard. Rossi revealed that Blackwood referred to a mobile medical unit hidden beneath an abandoned rehabilitation center outside the city. The facility could be evacuated within 2 hours. A signal from his ring had already warned them. Dante assembled a small team. Isabella insisted on going. No, he said. They need my blood to open the archive. We already opened it. My mother may not trust your men. She will trust me. She may be used as bait. Then I am the person who should recognize the trap. Dante studied here. You have been shot at, chased, dismissed from your job, and nearly killed 3 times. 4. If we count Mercer in the operating room, that does not strengthen your argument. I am going. Elena touched Dante's arm. She sounds like Mother. That is not reassuring. They left before noon in 2 unmarked vehicles. Rossi sat between guards in the second car. During the drive, Dante gave Isabella a small pistol and showed her how to disengage the safety. I do not want this, she said. Neither do I. You carry one every day. Wanting a weapon and accepting the need for one are different things. He adjusted her grip. His hand covered hers. Warm and steady. For the first time since the night began, Isabella noticed how exhausted he looked. He had learned his sister was alive. His father was murdered by his closest advisor, and half his organization could be controlled by imposters. Yet he was still trying to protect everyone else. Why did you save me at the apartment? She asked. I needed the key. You used your body to shield me from the sniper. The key was in my hand. You could have let me fall and taken it. Dante was silent for several seconds. Because you stood in front of Elena when you believed I was the danger. She was my patient. Everyone around me claims loyalty until loyalty becomes expensive. You paid before anyone asked. The vehicles stopped 2 miles from the abandoned rehabilitation center. The team continued through wooded land on foot. The building appeared deserted, its windows boarded and its parking lot covered in weeds. But fresh tire tracks led toward a service entrance. Rossi provided the access code. The door opened into an empty lobby. Dante made Rossi walk first. They descended 3 levels below ground, passing abandoned therapy rooms that concealed reinforced medical corridors. The air smelled like antiseptic. Beds stood behind glass walls. Some were empty. Others held unconscious men and women connected to monitors. Isabella checked the nearest patient. His identification bracelet bore the name of a banker who had supposedly died 9 years earlier. "There are dozens of them," she whispered. "Release them." Dante ordered his men. An alarm sounded. Steel doors began closing throughout the facility. Rossi smiled. "You came too late." He struck one guard and ran through a narrowing doorway. Dante followed. Isabella continued toward the central laboratory, guided by signs marked Biological Archive. Inside, she found a woman strapped to a medical chair. Her hair was white at the temples, but Isabella recognized her eyes immediately. Celeste Vale looked exactly like the mother Isabella saw in the few dreams she still remembered. Mom Celeste lifted her head. Tears filled her eyes. 3 taps, she whispered. Isabella crossed the room and held her for the first time in 31 years. There was no time for explanations. A monitor beside the chair displayed a countdown, 9 minutes until archive sterilization. Celeste pointed toward a sealed chamber. "They are going to destroy the samples and everyone connected to them." Isabella released the restraints. "Can you walk? I can try. That is all I ever ask from my patients." They reached the chamber, but the door required 2 genetic keys. Isabella's blood opened the first lock. The second requested authorization from Covenant founder lineage. Dante's blood would work because Vittorio created the system. But Dante was somewhere in the lower corridor chasing Rossi. Celeste showed Isabella a maintenance route through the ventilation control room. They found Dante near the generator level. Rossi had trapped him behind a fire door and opened fuel valves around the backup system. Dante was bleeding from the forehead but still fighting 2 guards who had remained loyal to Rossi. Isabella used the pistol once, firing into a pipe above them. Steam filled the corridor. Dante disarmed one man and drove the other into the wall. Rossi escaped toward the roof access shaft. "The archive needs your blood," Isabella said. "Rossi is getting away. If we do not stop the sterilization, every patient dies." Dante looked toward the stairwell where Rossi had disappeared, then returned with Isabella. It was the choice she had been waiting to see. He gave up vengeance to save people. His blood opened the second lock with 43 seconds remaining. Isabella shut down the sterilization cycle, while Celeste transmitted the victim database to secure servers outside the Moretti network. The countdown stopped at 6 seconds. The facility remained standing. The patients remained alive. Rossi reached the surface and tried to escape in a waiting helicopter. But Elena had anticipated him. She arrived with a second Moretti team and blocked the landing area. Rossi ran toward the woods, where Dante confronted him beside the abandoned fountain. "You could have ruled everything," Rossi said. "Instead, you destroyed your own family for strangers." Dante looked toward the building where Isabella and Celeste were helping the prisoners. "You never understood what a family was." Rossi reached for a hidden gun. Elena fired first, striking the weapon from his hand. Dante's guards took him alive. "He stands trial," Isabella said when she reached them. "Not only for the Covenant, for every patient, every stolen identity, every murder." Rossi laughed. "You think courts can hold me?" Dante handed him to federal agents Celeste had secretly contacted through an investigator loyal to Daniel Reed. "Perhaps not," Dante said. "But the people you erased deserve to watch you try to escape. Over the next several weeks, The covenant collapsed, piece by piece. The biometric ledger allowed authorities to freeze hidden accounts and locate 6 additional facilities. Dozens of people believed dead were reunited with their families. Dr. Mercer's records exposed St. Gabriel's role in the network. The hospital board publicly blamed him, but Isabella released the printed lethal order and internal messages, proving senior administrators knew what had happened. Several were arrested. Carlo Rossi's trial became the largest organized crime case in the state's history. Dante voluntarily surrendered the Moretti businesses connected to the covenant and used clean assets to create a compensation fund for the victims. Some of his captains rebelled. Others walked away. A few tried to kill him. Dante survived all of them. But the empire that remained was smaller and no longer built on stolen lives. Elena regained her strength at the estate. She spent hours learning what had changed during the 18 years taken from her. Celeste moved into a quiet house near the river, but visited Isabella every morning. Their relationship did not repair itself instantly. Isabella still carried anger over the years of silence. Celeste carried guilt that no apology could erase. They began with simple things: coffee, old photographs, and stories about Daniel Reed. Celeste explained that Daniel had never wanted Isabella hidden in his work. He wanted to expose the covenant, marry Celeste openly, and raise their daughter somewhere far from New York. "You have his stubbornness," Celeste said. "Everyone keeps calling it stubbornness when I refuse to let someone die." He said the same thing. St. Gabriel offered Isabella her job back after the scandal. She declined. Dante converted one of the Moretti family's legitimate buildings into a community medical center and asked Isabella to direct it. "I will not work for you," she told him. "Then do not." He placed the ownership documents on the table. The building belonged to an independent non-profit controlled by Isabella, Naomi, Belle, and 3 community representatives. "You planned all this?" she asked. "I listen when you are angry. That may be your first useful skill." Naomi became the clinic's medical director. Luis, the security guard who helped Isabella escape, became head of safety. The families of missing nurses received answers about what happened to them. Some answers brought relief. Others brought grief. But no one remained erased. Dante visited the clinic nearly every evening, usually pretending he had business nearby. He stood out among the bright walls and children's drawings, a feared man in a dark suit waiting patiently while Isabella finished treating patients. One night, 3 months after the Blackwood rescue, Isabella found him repairing a broken chair in the waiting room. "You own construction companies," she said. "I used to. You could call someone. You said the chair was dangerous. I did not say you had to fix it personally." He tightened the final screw. "I am learning from you." She sat beside him. "Elena says you are considering leaving New York." "I considered it. And there are people here. I am not ready to leave." His gaze rested on her. Isabella had spent years believing safety meant depending on no one. Dante had spent his life believing love created weaknesses enemies could use. They had both been wrong in different ways. She touched the scar near his shoulder where he had shielded her from the sniper. "You locked me in a car the night we met. You aimed a gun at my chest. I had never fired one. I knew." "How?" "The safety was still on." Isabella laughed despite herself. Dante smiled. And without the weight of the Moretti name, he looked like the 19-year-old brother who had spent 18 years mourning someone still alive. "My mother told you to kill me before midnight," Isabella said. "I did a poor job. Very poor. I could try again." That is not romantic. I have limited experience with romance, I noticed. He lifted one hand to her face but waited before touching her, giving her the choice he had denied her in the armored car. Isabella closed the distance and kissed him. It was not a promise that danger had ended. Carlo Rossi still awaited trial. Rival families still watched Dante's weakened organization. Survivors of the Covenant still needed years of care, but the kiss was a promise that neither of them would keep living as if survival were the same as life. 1 year later, the Isabella Reed Community Medical Center treated its 10,000th patient. Elena established a foundation for people recovering from unlawful confinement. Celeste testified publicly about the Covenant and cleared Daniel Reed's name. Dante transferred the final criminal assets inherited from his father into victim compensation funds. The newspapers said the Moretti empire had been destroyed. Dante did not disagree. On the anniversary of the night Isabella was fired, he brought her to the river terrace behind the clinic. Elena, Celeste, Naomi, Lois, and Belle waited inside. Pretending not to watch through the windows, Dante removed a small velvet box from his coat. Isabella narrowed her eyes. Is that another family secret, the last one? Inside was not a Moretti heirloom, but a simple ring made by a local jeweler whose family had received free treatment at the clinic. My father believed family was something a man owned, Dante said. Rossi believed it was something he could replace. You taught me it is something people choose every day, especially when choosing is difficult. He lowered himself to one knee. Isabella Reed, will you choose me? She looked at the man who had once been ordered to kill her, the man who had lost an empire because she asked him to save strangers, and the man who now understood that protection without freedom was only another kind of prison. Yes, she said, but I keep running the clinic. I would not dare argue. And no armored car doors lock from the inside. Already changed. And if one of your enemies arrives as a patient, I treat them. Dante Sihil. That condition may require discussion. Isabella raised an eyebrow. Then the answer is no. Agreed. She laughed and pulled him to his feet. Behind the windows, Elena began applauding. The others joined her. Dante placed the ring on Isabella's finger. But the true promise had been made long before. In a hospital room where Isabella refused an order designed to make a human being disappear, she had lost her job that night. But she had saved Elena, found her mother, uncovered the truth about her father, freed dozens of forgotten victims, and forced the most feared Mafia boss in New York to decide what kind of man he wanted to become. The secret in Isabella's blood could have destroyed the Moretti family. Instead, it destroyed the lie that had been holding them together and gave the survivors a chance to build something honest in its place.